My daughter-in-law Rachel handed me a steaming cup of coffee with that perfect smile she'd perfected over 5 years of marriage to my son. Here, Dad, your favorite blend. You'll need the energy for the shareholders' meeting. I was reaching for it when Maria, our housekeeper of 15 years, appeared beside me. Her hand touched my wrist, barely a whisper of pressure, and she leaned in close. Don't drink it, Mr. Harrison. Trust me, please. I looked into her eyes and saw something I'd never seen before, pure terror. In that moment, I knew my life was in danger. But what I discovered next, when I pretended to drink that coffee, would expose a conspiracy that had already killed twice. And I only had 4 hours before they made their final move. Before I tell you what was in that coffee and why Maria risked everything to warn me, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Because what happened the next 4 hours would either save my company and my life, or end both forever. Tuesday morning, March 14th, 2024. The San Francisco fog rolled thick over Pacific Heights as I stood in my home office, reviewing the documents for what should have been a routine shareholders meeting at 2 p.m. Harrison Technology Solutions, the company I'd built from nothing in my garage 40 years ago, was about to finalize the biggest acquisition in our history. $800 million. The culmination of my life's work. At 72 years old, I still came into the office every day. Still reviewed every major decision. Some people thought I should have retired, handed everything over to my son Marcus, and stepped back. But this company was my legacy, my purpose after losing my wife, Catherine, 6 years ago. I wasn't ready to let go. Dad, you're going to work yourself to death. Marcus appeared in the doorway, his voice carrying that mixture of concern and frustration I'd been hearing more often lately. Behind him stood Rachel, his wife of 5 years, perfectly put together as always in her designer suit, blonde hair pulled back in that severe style she favored. I'm fine, Marcus. Just want everything perfect for this afternoon. Rachel stepped forward, carrying a coffee cup on a small tray. The morning light caught the steam rising from the dark liquid. Here, Dad, I made your favorite Ethiopian blend just the way you like it. You've been up since 5 a.m. You need to keep your energy up. Something about the way she said Dad always felt slightly off. Not quite genuine, but I'd attributed it to awkwardness, the difficulty of blending families. My hand reached for the cup. That's when Maria entered, carrying fresh towels she clearly didn't need to deliver right then. She was 52, originally from Guatemala, and had worked for our family since Marcus was in high school. More than an employee, she was family. Catherine had loved her like a sister. Mr. Harrison, excuse me. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were urgent. She set down the towels and moved closer, her hand brushing my wrist as I lifted the coffee cup. The touch was deliberate, firm. Don't drink it, Mr. Harrison. Trust me, please. The room went silent. Rachel's smile froze. Marcus looked confused. Maria, what are you talking about? Rachel's voice had an edge to it now. Maria's eyes met mine. In 15 years, I'd never seen her afraid. But now, genuine terror flickered across her face. The coffee, Mr. Harrison. Don't drink it. I looked at the cup in my hand, then at Maria, then at Rachel, whose expression had shifted from surprise to something harder to read. Calculation, maybe, or concern. I couldn't tell. Maria, that's ridiculous. Marcus stepped forward. Rachel made Dad's coffee. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'd spent 40 years in tech, building a company from nothing, reading people, trusting instincts when data wasn't enough. And every instinct I had was screaming that Maria was telling me the truth. You know what? I set the cup down carefully on my desk. I just remember Dr. Chun told me to cut back on caffeine. Blood pressure concerns. I'll skip it this morning. Rachel's eyes flashed with something. Annoyance? Fear? It was gone too quickly to identify. Dad, 1 cup won't hurt. You've been drinking coffee for 50 years. Better safe than sorry. I smiled at her, keeping my tone light. But thank you for thinking of me. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Marcus looked between his wife and our housekeeper, clearly confused. Rachel maintained her smile, but it no longer reached her eyes. Well, I'll just pour out then. Rachel reached for the cup. Leave it. My voice came out sharper than intended. I might change my mind in a bit. Let it cool. After they left, Marcus looking puzzled, Rachel smile rigid, I turned to Maria. She was trembling. Maria, what's going on? She moved to the door, checked the hallway, then closed it softly. When she turned back, tears were streaming down her face. Mr. Harrison, I should have said something sooner. Weeks ago, but I was scared, and I wasn't completely sure until this morning. She wrung her hands. Mrs. Rachel, she's been putting something in your coffee for the last 3 weeks. Every morning she makes you coffee. She adds something from a small bottle she keeps hidden in her purse. My blood ran cold. What kind of something? I don't know. Clear liquid. Just a few drops. The first time I saw it, I thought maybe it was vitamins or supplements. But she's so careful about it. So secretive. And Mr. Harrison, her voice dropped to a whisper. You've been getting sicker. The dizziness. The confusion. The memory problems Dr. Chun can't explain. She was right. For the past month, I've been experiencing episodes. Moments where the room spun. Times when I couldn't remember conversations I'd apparently had. Marcus and Rachel had been suggesting I was working too hard, that maybe it was time to step back from active management of the company. Even Dr. Chun had run tests, but found nothing conclusive. This morning, Maria continued. I saw her add more than usual. Much more. Maybe 10 drops instead of 3 or 4. And the way she smiled when she stirred it. Maria shuddered. Mr. Harrison, I think she's trying to hurt you. Maybe even kill you. I sat down heavily in my chair. My daughter-in-law, poisoning me. It seemed impossible. Insane. But it also explained everything. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I was afraid. Fresh tears fell. Miss Rachel, she told me last week if I caused any trouble, she'd make sure I was deported. She said she has connections, that she could make my life very difficult. My granddaughter Rosa, she's finally in college here. I can't risk losing everything. Maria's voice broke. But this morning, when I saw how much she put in your coffee, I couldn't stay silent. Not even if she destroys my life. I couldn't let you die. I stood and pulled Maria into a hug. She sobbed against my shoulder. You did the right thing. And I promise, no one is getting deported. You potentially just saved my life. When she composed herself, I looked at the coffee cup still sitting on my desk. I need to have this tested. And I need to know why. The shareholders' meeting, Maria said quietly. I heard them talking last night. Mrs. Rachel and Mr. Marcus. Something about today being important. Something about power of attorney and voting rights if you were incapacitated. The pieces started falling into place. The acquisition we were finalizing today would require shareholder approval. As founder and majority stakeholder, my vote was decisive. But if I was incapacitated or deemed mentally unfit, Marcus has my healthcare power of attorney, I said slowly. If I was unconscious or incompetent, he could make medical decisions for me. And probably business decisions too, at least temporarily. Mr. Harrison, what are you going to do? I looked at the coffee cup, then at my computer, then back at Maria. 40 years building this company had taught me one crucial thing. When someone comes at you, you need overwhelming evidence before you strike back. I'm going to let them think it worked. For the next 15 minutes, I worked quickly. First, I carefully poured most of the coffee into a sealed container, leaving just enough in the cup to look like I'd drunk some. I called my private physician, Dr. Sarah Chun, directly on her cell. Sarah, I need you to test something for me. Confidentially. Possible poisoning. There was a pause. Robert, are you serious? Deadly serious. Can you have someone pick up a sample within the hour? I'll send my personal assistant. What am I looking for? I don't know. Something that causes dizziness, confusion, memory problems. Something that could be given in small doses over time. Another pause. Robert, there are several substances that fit that profile. Some of them are extremely dangerous. If you've been exposed, I haven't drunk any today, but I might have been exposed over the past 3 weeks. Can you also run blood work? Check for anything unusual. Come to my office right now. I can't. I have 4 hours until a crucial shareholders meeting. I need to know what's in this coffee before then. I'll do my best. My assistant will be there in 20 minutes. Next, I call my attorney, James Bradford. We'd known each other for 30 years. He'd handled every major deal, every contract, every legal challenge Harrison Technology had ever faced. Jim, I need you to pull the documentation on my healthcare power of attorney and any business contingency plans we have if I become incapacitated. Robert, what's going on? I'll explain later, but I need to know exactly what authority Marcus has if something happens to me, especially regarding today's acquisition vote. Hold on. I heard papers rustling. Okay, according to the documents we filed 3 years ago, Marcus has healthcare power of attorney. If you're incapacitated and unable to make business decisions, there's a provision for the board to appoint an interim CEO. But he paused. Robert, there's something I'd forgotten about. Rachel had me add an amendment 2 years ago. She said you'd approved it, that it was just a formality. My stomach dropped. What amendment? If you're incapacitated, Marcus assumes temporary control of your voting shares for any immediate business decisions. It was framed as protecting the company from being paralyzed in an emergency. The amendment requires board ratification within 30 days, but for immediate decisions, like a shareholder vote happening the same day, Marcus would have proxy authority. And you're sure I approve this? You signed it, Robert. I have your signature on file. I pulled up my digital calendar going back 2 years. March 2022. I found the entry. Sign updated POA documents. Jim's office. I'd been recovering from pneumonia that month, exhausted and medicated. Rachel had been incredibly helpful, bringing me documents to review, handling correspondence. Jim, I don't think I knew what I was signing. Silence on the other end. Then, Jesus, Robert. What are you saying? I'm saying I might have been tricked into signing away control of my own company. And this morning, someone tried to drug me into incapacitation right before the most important vote in our company's history. Who? I couldn't say it. Not yet. Not until I had proof. I'll explain everything at the shareholders' meeting. But Jim, I need you there. And I need you to bring every document related to my power of attorney, proxy voting rights, and the governance structure if I'm incapacitated. I'll be there at 1:30. After hanging up, I turned to my computer and did something I'd never done before. I accessed our home security system, the one I'd had upgraded 6 months ago with cameras throughout the house. Rachel had objected, said it felt like invasion of privacy. I'd insisted it was for security. Now I was grateful for my paranoia. I pulled up the footage from this morning, focusing on the kitchen. There was Rachel at 8:45 a.m. making coffee. She ground the beans, heated the water, prepared the French press. Everything normal. Then, she pulled something from her purse. A small brown bottle, maybe 2 inches tall. She looked around, checking to make sure she was alone, then carefully added drops to my coffee cup. I counted. 12 drops. She stirred carefully, then returned the bottle to her purse. But it was her expression that chilled me to the bone. She smiled. Not a warm smile. Not even a satisfied smile. It was cold, calculating. The smile of someone who just executed a well-laid plan. I downloaded the video to a secure drive, then went back further. The past 3 weeks. Every morning Rachel had made me coffee, the same ritual. Small bottle. A few drops. Always when she thought no one was watching. I found something else too. Late-night meetings in Marcus's study. Rachel and my son having intense conversations. The audio wasn't clear, but I could read lips well enough to catch fragments. After the vote, once he's out of the picture, the company will finally be ours. My own son, my only child, planning my downfall with his wife. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Harrison, Dr. Chin's assistant, is here for the pickup. Send her up, Maria. I handed over the sealed container with the coffee sample and gave blood for testing. Tell Dr. Chun I need results before 1 p.m. if humanly possible. Money is no object. She said to tell you she's rushing it to the toxicology lab personally. She'll call you the moment she knows anything. After the assistant left, I sat back down at my desk. I had approximately 3.5 hours until the shareholders' meeting. 3.5 hours to figure out exactly what Rachel and Marcus were planning. And 3.5 hours to build a trap they'd walk right into. But first, I needed to play dead. At 10:15 a.m., I stumbled into the hallway. Maria was there immediately, having been waiting nearby as we'd planned. Mr. Harrison, are you okay? I grabbed the wall for support, letting my knees buckle slightly. Feel dizzy. Room, is spinning. Marcus appeared from his bedroom, concern on his face. Real concern? Or was he acting too? Dad, what's wrong? Don't know. Everything's blurry. Rachel emerged a moment later, her expression perfectly crafted. Robert, oh my God, we need to call 911. No hospitals. Just need to lie down. Marcus helped me back to my bedroom. I allowed myself to seem confused, disoriented. Have to get to the meeting. Dad, you're in no condition for any meeting. Rachel called Dr. Chun. Already on it. Rachel pulled out her phone, but I noticed she was texting, not calling. They helped me onto my bed. I let my eyes close, my breathing become heavy. Through slitted eyelids, I watched them. Is he unconscious? Rachel whispered. Marcus leaned over me. Dad, can you hear me? I didn't respond. Years of poker with business rivals had taught me how to keep a perfect poker face. We need to call an ambulance. Marcus's voice was genuinely worried. And tell them what? That he got dizzy and fell asleep? Rachel's voice was sharp. Marcus, this is exactly what we talked about. He's clearly having some kind of episode. He's not fit to make major business decisions today. But the shareholders' meeting, you have power of attorney. You can represent his interests. I don't know, Rachel. This feels wrong. Maybe we should postpone the vote. Postpone. Rachel's voice rose. Marcus, we've worked for 5 years to get to this point. 5 years. The acquisition has to happen today, or the deal falls apart. And if the deal falls apart, Harrison Technology loses everything. But Dad, your father is 72 years old and clearly declining. You've seen it. The memory problems. The confusion. He's not capable of running this company anymore. Marcus, it's time for you to step up. There was a long pause. I kept my breathing slow and steady, fighting the urge to open my eyes and confront them both. You're right, Marcus finally said, and my heart broke. He needs rest. I'll handle the meeting. Good. I'll call Jim Bradford and let him know Robert is incapacitated. You'll be exercising your proxy voting authority. After they left, I waited a full 5 minutes before opening my eyes. Maria slipped into the room, closing the door softly behind her. Did it work? Perfectly. They think I'm out cold. I sat up, fully alert. Maria, I need you to do something for me. In my study, there's a briefcase in the locked cabinet behind my desk. The combination is July 14th, 82, Catherine's birthday. Inside is a voice-activated recording device. Can you place it in Marcus's study without anyone seeing? I can try. Not try. Do. I need to hear exactly what they're planning. While Maria worked on that, I called Detective Sarah Martinez of the San Francisco Police Department. We'd met at a charity function 2 years ago, and I'd helped fund a technology initiative for the department. She told me if I ever needed anything to call directly. Detective Martinez, this is Robert Harrison. Mr. Harrison, what can I do for you? I need to report an attempted poisoning. Against myself. I'm listening. I explained everything. Maria's warning, the coffee, the security footage, the suspicious power of attorney amendment. She listened without interrupting. Mr. Harrison, these are serious allegations. If you're right, I have video evidence of my daughter-in-law adding an unknown substance to my coffee this morning. I have the coffee being tested for toxins right now. And I have reason to believe this is connected to a conspiracy to take control of my company. I'll need to see all of that evidence. Can you come to the station? Not until after 2 p.m. I have a shareholders meeting that's crucial to exposing this conspiracy. But Detective, I need something from you. Can you pull any records on Rachel Harrison, formerly Rachel Sutton? Anything unusual in her background? I can run a background check. Give me an hour. At 11:30 a.m., Maria returned with the recording device successfully planted. Mrs. Rachel and Mr. Marcus went into the study right after I placed it. They're talking now. I pulled up the live audio feed on my laptop. Rachel's voice came through crystal clear. Exactly as planned. He took enough that he'll be out for hours. By the time he wakes up, the vote will be over and you'll be CEO. Are you sure he'll be okay? He's my father, Rachel. I didn't sign up for what? Making him take a nap? That's all this is, Marcus. A strong sedative to make sure he rests instead of stressing himself to death over this meeting. Dr. Chen said herself he needs to slow down. You talked to Dr. Chen about this? Of course not. But she's been saying for months that your father's health is declining. We're actually doing him a favor, forcing him to rest. And after the vote, your CEO, the acquisition goes through. Harrison Technology becomes a billion-dollar company. And we're finally free of your father's constant interference. He built this company, Rachel. It's his legacy. And now it's time for it to be yours. Marcus, do you want to spend the rest of your life in your father's shadow? Do you want to be 50 years old and still called young Marcus at board meetings? A pause. Then, no, I don't. Then stop second-guessing. By tonight, everything changes. Your father gets a comfortable retirement. You get the company you deserve, and we get the life we've been planning. The life they've been planning. I kept listening. What if he fights the transition? What if he claims we drugged him or something? Rachel laughed. Marcus, he's a 72-year-old man who's been having documented memory problems and dizzy spells for weeks. If he claims we drugged him, it'll just sound like more confusion, more evidence that he needs to step down. We've created the perfect narrative. His own doctor has documented his declining health. The board has seen him struggle. No one will believe him over medical evidence. You've really thought of everything. I've had 5 years to think of everything. Her voice turned cold. 5 years of playing the dutiful daughter-in-law, while your father treated me like I wasn't good enough for his precious son. 5 years of watching him control every aspect of our lives. Well, not anymore. After today, we control our own destiny. At 12:15 p.m., my phone rang. Dr. Chun. Robert, the results are back. I need you to listen very carefully. The coffee contained a substance called temazepam. It's a benzodiazepine, a powerful sedative. The concentration was extremely high, enough to cause unconsciousness for 6 to 8 hours, possibly longer in someone your age. Would it have killed me? At this dose? Maybe not directly, but could have caused respiratory depression, especially if you had any other health issues. And, Robert, this wasn't the only thing I found. Your blood work shows trace amounts of another substance, scopolamine, also known as devil's breath. What does that do? In small doses, it causes confusion, memory problems, and suggestibility. People under its influence can appear conscious and functional, but have no memory of their actions afterward. It's been used in date rape cases and, in some countries, for robbery and fraud. My vision actually blurred for a moment. Someone's been giving me this for weeks. I believe so. The half-life is short, but there are still detectable metabolites in your system. Robert, whoever did this, was very sophisticated. They were essentially making you controllable, compliant. You could have signed anything, agreed to anything, and not remembered it later. The amended power of attorney. How many other documents had I signed in the past few weeks without truly understanding what they were? Dr. Chun, I need written documentation of all of this. Medical reports, toxicology results, everything. Can you have it ready in an hour? I'll have it couriered to your home immediately. Robert, you need to go to the police. I will. But first, I need to stop them from stealing my company. At 12:45 p.m., Detective Martinez called back. Mr. Harrison, I found something interesting. Rachel Sutton, the daughter-in-law, that's not her real name. Her birth name was Rachel Sutton, but she legally changed it from Rachel Kowalski 6 months before she met your son. Why would she change her name? That's what got interesting. Rachel Kowalski was connected to a case in Seattle 7 years ago. An elderly businessman named Thomas Brennan died suddenly, leaving his entire estate to his young wife, who he'd married just 2 years earlier. The wife's name was Jennifer Kowalski, Rachel's older sister. My blood ran cold. What happened? Jennifer Kowalski inherited everything, about $40 million. There was a brief investigation, but Thomas Brennan's death was ruled natural causes. Heart failure. He was 68, had a history of heart problems. But his children contested the will, claimed Jennifer had manipulated their father. They alleged he'd been showing signs of memory problems and confusion in the months before his death. Sound familiar? Jesus Christ. The case never went anywhere. Insufficient evidence. Jennifer Kowalski disappeared with the money. But Mr. Harrison, I found something else. Jennifer and Rachel Kowalski both grew up in foster care after their parents died. They were separated as teenagers. Rachel went to one foster home, Jennifer to another. But they stayed in contact. And here's the thing. There are financial records showing Rachel received large payments from an offshore account in the months after Thomas Brennan's death. They did this before. Together. That's my theory, and I think they're doing it again. Jennifer found the mark, married him, isolated him, and eventually killed him. Rachel helped from behind the scenes. Now Rachel's running the same play with your son as her entry point. Can you arrest her? Not yet. I have suspicions, but no concrete evidence linking Rachel to any crime. The Seattle case is closed. I've contacted Seattle PD to see if they'll reopen it, but that takes time. What I can do is have officers present at your shareholders meeting. If she attempts anything, we'll be there. Thank you, Detective. I'll see you at 2 p.m. At 1 p.m., I got up, showered, and put on my best suit. The charcoal gray Tom Ford that Catherine had bought me for our 40th anniversary. She'd said it made me look like the powerful man I was. Today, I needed that power. Maria helped me with my tie. Her hands were shaking. Mr. Harrison, are you sure about this? These people, they're dangerous. I'm sure. But Maria, I need you to do one more thing. I need you to call my son and tell him I'm awake and insisting on attending the meeting. Can you do that? What if they try to stop you? They won't, because right now, they think I'm drugged and compliant. If I show up appearing functional, but a little confused, it actually helps their story that I'm declining. They'll let me come to the meeting because they think they control me. At 1:20 p.m., I walked into Marcus's study. He and Rachel were reviewing documents, preparing for the meeting. They both looked up, startled. Dad, you're awake. How are you feeling? I let myself sway slightly, gripping the doorframe. Better. Little confused about this morning. But I'm not missing this meeting. This is too important. Rachel stood quickly. Robert, you really should rest. Marcus can handle. No. I straightened, putting steel in my voice. This is my company. My vote. I'm going to that meeting. Marcus exchanged a glance with Rachel. She gave a tiny nod. Okay, Dad. If you're sure you're up for it. I'm sure. The ride to Harrison Technology headquarters in downtown San Francisco took 20 minutes. Marcus drove. I sat in the back, pretending to doze while actually reviewing all my evidence on my phone. The video footage, the audio recordings, the toxicology reports Dr. Chun had sent. I had everything I needed. Now I just had to make sure Rachel and Marcus walked right into the trap. At 1:50 p.m., we arrived at the building I'd built. 23 floors of glass and steel, with the Harrison Technology logo visible from blocks away. My legacy. My life's work. Not anymore, Rachel was thinking. But she was wrong. In 10 minutes, she was going to learn that some traps don't spring until the prey thinks they've already won. The conference room on the 23rd floor was already filled when we arrived. The board of directors, 12 men and women I'd handpicked over the years, sat around the massive oak table. James Bradford, my attorney, nodded at me from his seat, his expression carefully neutral. Our head of acquisitions, Daniel Chong, was presenting final merger details on the screen. And there, in the back corner, I spotted Detective Martinez and another plainclothes officer sitting with visitor badges as security consultants. Perfect. Robert, Catherine Chun, our CFO, no relation to my doctor, stood up. We heard you weren't feeling well. Are you sure you're up for this? Just a dizzy spell this morning. I waved it off, moving to my seat at the head of the table. Nothing that would keep me from a most important vote in our company's history. Rachel guided me to my chair with exaggerated care, her hand on my elbow, playing the concerned daughter-in-law perfectly. Dad's been having these episodes lately. We're worried about him. Several board members murmured sympathetically. I saw the setup clearly now. They'd been preparing the narrative for weeks. The aging founder losing his edge, the concerned family watching him decline. Let's get started. I looked at Daniel. Walk us through the final terms. For the next 20 minutes, Daniel presented the acquisition details. A Chinese tech firm, Zhao Industries, wanted to buy Harrison Technology for $800 million. Our shareholders would receive $127 per share, a 40% premium over current market value. It was an extraordinary offer. Too extraordinary, I thought when it first came in. But Marcus and Rachel had been enthusiastic, pushing hard for the deal. Any questions before we vote? I asked. Rachel stood up. She wasn't on the board, but as Marcus's wife and a Harvard MBA, she'd been attending meetings as an advisor for the past year. Another thing I'd allowed without much thought. Before we vote, I think the board should be aware of a situation affecting Robert's capacity to make this decision. She pulled out a folder. I've been documenting Robert's health issues over the past 6 weeks. Memory lapses, confusion, dizziness. This morning, he had a severe episode and was unconscious for over an hour. I was resting, I said mildly. You were unconscious, Dad. You couldn't be woken up. And this isn't the first time. She distributed papers to the board members. I've been keeping records. 3 weeks ago, you forgot an important client meeting entirely. 2 weeks ago, you called me by Catherine's name, your late wife, and didn't realize your mistake. Last week, you signed documents you later claimed to have no memory of. The scopolamine. She'd been drugging me and documenting the results to build her case. Robert, James Bradford spoke carefully. Are these incidents accurate? Some of them happened, yes. I've been under a lot of stress. It's not stress, Dad. Marcus stood up now, and I saw genuine worry on his face. My son wasn't a monster. He was being manipulated by one. It's age. It's the pressure you've been under for 40 years. Rachel and I have been talking to Dr. Chun. You've been talking to my doctor about me? I let anger edge into my voice. We're concerned about you. Rachel's voice rose. Robert, everyone in this room can see you're struggling. And that's okay. It's normal. But you can't make an $800 million decision when you can barely remember what you had for breakfast. I remember breakfast perfectly. Oatmeal with blueberries and coffee that I didn't drink because our housekeeper warned me not to. The room went silent. Rachel's perfect composure cracked for just a second. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact that you've been poisoning me for 3 weeks, Rachel. Or should I say, Rachel Kowalski. Her face went white. Marcus looked between us, confused. Dad, what? Let me tell everyone a story. I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in weeks. It's about 2 sisters who grew up in foster care. Jennifer and Rachel Kowalski. They were separated as teenagers but stayed close. Jennifer developed a particular skill, identifying wealthy older men, marrying them, and inheriting their money after they died of natural causes. 7 years ago, she married Thomas Brennan in Seattle. He was 68, healthy, successful. 2 years later, he was dead. Heart failure. Jennifer inherited $40 million. Robert, this is insane, Rachel started. But Jennifer needed help. I continued. Someone to help isolate the target, document mental decline, make sure everything looked natural. That's where her sister Rachel came in. After the Seattle score, Rachel changed her name, created a new identity, and went looking for her own mark. A lonely widower with a son. She seduced the son, married into the family, and started the same process, drugging the target with scopolamine to create confusion and memory problems, documenting every episode, building a case for incompetence. This is ridiculous. Rachel turned to the board. He's paranoid. This is exactly the kind of delusional thinking we've been worried about. Is it? I pulled out my phone and connected it to the conference room display. Let me show you something. The video played on the screen. Rachel in our kitchen this morning, carefully adding drops from a small bottle into my coffee. The timestamp clearly visible. The calculation on her face unmistakable. The room erupted. Marcus stared at the screen in horror. Rachel, what is that? What are you doing? I can explain. You're poisoning him. Marcus's voice cracked. Oh my God, you've been poisoning my father. It's not poison, Marcus. It's just a mild sedative. To help him rest. To keep him from making terrible business decisions while he's not thinking clearly. You're lying. I played the next recording. Rachel's voice filled the room. After the vote, your CEO. The acquisition goes through. Harrison Technology becomes a billion-dollar company. And we're finally free of your father's constant interference. Marcus backed away from his wife like she was radioactive. You said we were helping him. You said he needed to retire for his own health. I was helping you, Marcus. Helping us. Your father has been controlling your life for 32 years. I was setting you free. By drugging him? By trying to steal his company. Not steal, transfer. It should have been yours anyway. You're his son, but it's not mine. It's his. He built it. Marcus turned to me, tears streaming down his face. Dad, I swear I didn't know. I thought. She said it was just supplements. To help you sleep better. To reduce your stress. I never knew she was. I know, son. And I did. Watching him now, seeing his genuine horror, I understood. Marcus had been manipulated as much as I had. He'd wanted my approval so badly, wanted to prove himself, that he'd let Rachel whisper poison in his ear about stepping out of my shadow. But he wasn't a murderer. He was my son, and he'd been lied to. Rachel saw it all falling apart. She lunged for the door, but Detective Martinez was already there, badge out. Rachel Harrison, you're under arrest for attempted poisoning, conspiracy to commit fraud, and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. As the detective read Rachel her rights, I pulled up one more file on the screen. Before we take the vote on this acquisition, there's something else the board should know. I had my team investigate Zhao Industries more thoroughly over the past week. Guess who's on their board of directors? A photo appeared on the screen. Jennifer Kowalski, now going by Jennifer Zhao, married to the 71-year-old CEO of Zhao Industries. The acquisition was never about market value or strategic synergy. It was about getting me to sell my company to Rachel's sister's husband. They'd own Harrison Technology, and they'd have $800 million of shareholder money to disappear with, just like they did in Seattle. The board members were on their feet now, shouting questions. James Bradford was already on his phone, presumably with the SEC. Daniel Chong looked like he might be sick. Motion to table the acquisition vote pending full investigation, Catherine Chin said firmly. Seconded. 3 other board members said simultaneously. All in favor? Every hand went up. Rachel was being led away in handcuffs, still screaming. Marcus, don't let them do this. We had a plan. We were supposed to be free. But Marcus wasn't listening. He stood beside me, his hand on my shoulder, tears still falling. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know, son. We'll talk. We'll fix this. But right now, I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need you to take a leave of absence from the company. Get some therapy. Figure out who you are without her influence. Can you do that? He nodded, unable to speak. As the police took Rachel away and the board dissolved into chaos, I stood at the window looking out over San Francisco, the city where I'd built my empire, the city where I'd almost lost everything. My phone buzzed. Dr. Chun. Robert, I've been contacted by the Seattle Police Department. They're reopening the Thomas Brennan case based on the evidence you uncovered, and they've arrested Jennifer Zhao. Apparently, her current husband had been showing the same symptoms you were experiencing. Is he okay? He will be now. You save his life by exposing this. I hung up and turned back to the room. Maria had appeared in the doorway, worry etched on her face. Mr. Harrison? I walked over and took her hands. Maria, you saved my life today, and probably several other lives too. I can never thank you enough. You don't have to thank me, Mr. Harrison. You're family. Yes. Yes, I am. And so are you. 3 months later, I sat in the same conference room with a very different atmosphere. Detective Martinez had just finished briefing the board on the final resolution of the case. Rachel Harrison, née Kowalski, pled guilty to attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, and elder abuse. She received 15 years in federal prison. Her sister, Jennifer Zhao, née Kowalski, was convicted of murder in the second degree in the death of Thomas Brennan. The Seattle case was reopened after new toxicology evidence proved he'd been poisoned with a combination of scopolamine and digoxin. She received 25 to life. What about the Zhao Industries connection? Catherine Chin asked. The company was a front for money laundering. The CEO, Jennifer's husband, was also a victim. He's cooperating with authorities. The acquisition attempt was entirely fraudulent. After the detective left, I stood up to address the board. I want to thank you all for your support during this difficult time. The past 3 months have been about healing and rebuilding. I've undergone thorough medical evaluation, and I'm happy to report I'm completely recovered from the effects of the drugs Rachel administered. There were smiles around the table, genuine warmth. However, this experience has taught me something important. I've been holding on to control of this company because I was afraid of what would happen if I let go. Afraid my legacy would be destroyed. But Harrison Technology is bigger than one person. It's all of us. I pulled out a document. I'm announcing my transition to Chairman Emeritus, effective in 6 months. I'll maintain a board seat and advisory role, but day-to-day operations will be handed over to our new CEO. Everyone turned to look at Marcus's empty seat. He'd been on leave since the arrest, working with therapists to process the trauma of his wife's betrayal. Not Marcus, I said gently. He's not ready, and honestly, I don't know if he'll ever want to come back to the company. That's okay. He needs to find his own path, not follow mine. I looked at Catherine Chun. Our new CEO will be Catherine, if she accepts. The room erupted in applause. Catherine stood, shocked. Robert, I don't know what to say. Say you'll take care of my company. Say you'll build on what we've created. Say you'll make it even better than I ever could. She wiped away tears. I promise. That evening, I sat in my study with Marcus. He looked healthier than he had in months. Therapy was helping. I'm thinking about going back to school, he said. Getting my teaching certificate. I always wanted to teach history, but you needed me at the company, so You went into tech to please me. I nodded. I'm sorry, son. I never asked what you wanted. It's okay, Dad. I'm figuring it out now. Finally, for what it's worth, I think you'll be an excellent teacher. He smiled, a real smile, the first I'd seen in months. Thanks, Dad. Maria brought us coffee. Coffee I'd watch her make myself, no mysterious bottles involved. She'd received a substantial raise and a college fund for her granddaughter Rosa. But more than that, she'd been honored at a community event for elder advocacy. Her courage in speaking up had sparked a wider conversation about protecting seniors for financial abuse. Mr. Harrison, Rosa wanted me to tell you thank you for the scholarship. She's studying to be a nurse now. She says she wants to help people the way I helped you. Tell her she's always welcome here. And Maria, how many times do I have to ask you to call me Robert? She smiled. Old habits, Mr. Harrison. Old habits. After she left, I opened my laptop and looked at the email I'd received that morning. From Thomas Brennan's daughter. Mr. Harrison, thank you for helping bring my father's killer to justice. For 7 years, we knew something was wrong, but couldn't prove it. Your courage in exposing Rachel and Jennifer gave us the closure we needed. My father can finally rest in peace. I'd answered a dozen similar emails over the past months. Families of other victims, people who'd suspected but couldn't prove elder abuse, law enforcement officers who'd worked cold cases involving suspicious deaths of wealthy seniors. The Kowalski sisters had been operating for over a decade, it turned out. There were at least 5 other cases being investigated across 4 states. My near miss had exposed an entire network of elder predators. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 40 years building technology to connect people to improve lives. But my most important contribution might be exposing these killers and preventing future deaths. My phone rang. Dr. Chun. Robert, your 6-month follow-up is tomorrow. How are you feeling? Strong. Clear-headed. Better than I've felt in years, actually. Good. The last traces of scopolamine are long gone from your system. You're completely recovered. After hanging up, I walked to the window and looked out over the city lights. Pacific Heights glittering below. My home, my city, my life, almost taken from me, but saved by the courage of one woman who decided that speaking up was worth the risk. I thought about Rachel's words during her arrest. We were supposed to be free. She'd seen my life, my success, my company as a cage, keeping Marcus trapped. But freedom doesn't come from tearing others down. It doesn't come from poison and lies and murder. Real freedom comes from building your own path, making your own choices, living with integrity. Marcus was learning that now, finding his freedom in teaching instead of technology, discovering who he was outside of my shadow. And I was learning it too, learning that letting go didn't mean losing everything. It meant trusting others to carry the torch forward. It meant accepting that my legacy wasn't about control, It was about the lives I'd touched, the technology we'd created, the people I'd empowered. The trial had been a media sensation. Silicon Valley poisoning plot headlines screamed. Black Widow sisters target tech titans. The coverage was intense, invasive, exhausting. But it also started a national conversation about elder abuse, financial exploitation, and the vulnerability of aging executives. Congress held hearings. New laws were proposed. Support groups formed. I testified before a Senate committee about my experience. Sitting in that chamber, under those bright lights, I told my story. About Maria's warning. About the coffee I didn't drink. About the months of drugging I hadn't even known was happening. The thing about this kind of abuse, I told the senators, is that it makes you doubt yourself. Makes you think you're losing your mind. The memory problems, the confusion, I thought it was just age. Just a natural decline everyone warned me about. But it wasn't natural. It was intentional. And if Maria hadn't been brave enough to speak up, I'd be dead. Or worse, I'd be alive but completely under their control, signing away everything I'd built while thinking it was my own idea. The laws that eventually passed were nicknamed Maria's Law in the press. Mandatory reporting requirements for caregivers who suspected elder abuse. Stronger penalties for financial exploitation. Better protection for whistleblowers who reported suspected crimes. Maria was mortified by the attention. I just did what was right, Mr. Harrison. I don't need laws named after me. But she deserved the recognition. She'd risked everything, her job, her immigration status, her granddaughter's future, to save my life. That kind of courage deserved to be celebrated. A year after the arrests, I attended Rosa's college graduation. She was the first person in her family to earn a degree. Maria sat beside me, crying happy tears as Rosa walked across the stage. Bachelor of Science in Nursing, the announcer called out. Rosa Elena Martinez. Rosa had taken her grandmother's maiden name as her middle name in honor of Maria's courage. After the ceremony, Rosa hugged me tight. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for everything, for my scholarship, for protecting my grandmother, for showing me what it means to stand up for what's right. Your grandmother showed me that. Rosa, I just followed her example. Marcus attended too, sitting on my other side. He was teaching now at a private high school, coaching the debate team, loving every minute of it. He'd started dating a fellow teacher, slowly, carefully rebuilding his ability to trust. She's nothing like Rachel, he'd told me nervously before introducing me to Amy. Good, I'd said. Be yourself with her, son. Not who you think she wants you to be. Just yourself. They seemed happy, genuine, real. As for me, I was adjusting to semi-retirement. I still sat on the Harrison Technology Board, still consulted on major decisions. But Catherine Chun was running the company beautifully, taking it in directions I'd never imagined. We're launching an elder care technology division, she'd announced at last month's board meeting. Devices to detect medication tampering. AI systems to identify unusual financial transactions. Technology to protect our parents and grandparents the way Maria protected you. It was perfect. My near death had created something positive, something that would protect others. I'd also started a foundation, the Catherine and Robert Harrison Foundation for Elder Safety, named after my late wife and myself. We funded research, supported advocacy groups, and helped families dealing with elder abuse cases. Every month, I received letters from people who'd been helped by our work. Seniors who'd escaped financial exploitation. Families who'd recognized warning signs in time. Caregivers who'd been protected after reporting abuse. Each letter reminded me why Maria's warning had been so important. Why that moment, "Don't drink it, Mr. Harrison. Trust me," had saved not just my life, but countless others. 2 years after the arrests, I sat in a courtroom again. But this time, I was there for something good. Maria's citizenship ceremony. She stood with 30 other people from around the world, her right hand raised, taking the oath of citizenship. Rosa sat beside me, recording every moment on her phone. Tears streamed down both our faces. When it was over, when Maria officially became a United States citizen, she came straight to me. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, for everything, for the lawyers who helped with my case, for the recommendation letters, for believing in me. Maria, you saved my life. This is the least I could do. Besides, America needs people like you. People brave enough to do the right thing, even when it's dangerous. The reception afterward was at my house. Maria's family, my family, friends from the company. Catherine Chun gave a toast to Maria, who reminds us all that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. Everyone raised their glasses to Maria. Later, as the party wound down, I found myself in my study with Detective Martinez. She'd become a friend over the past 2 years, someone I consulted with on the Foundation's work. How's the Seattle investigation going? I asked. We've identified 3 more victims of the Kowalski sisters. All elderly men. All died of natural causes that we now believe were actually poisoning. Jennifer is being charged with additional murders. Rachel is cooperating now, giving us details about their entire operation. Why is she cooperating? Because she finally understands she's going to prison for the rest of her life no matter what. She figures she might as well clear her conscience. That, and she's furious at her sister for dragging her into this life. Says Jennifer groomed her from the time they were teenagers, taught her that this was the only way people like them could get ahead. Do you believe her? Martinez shrugged. I think it's probably some truth mixed with a lot of rationalization. Rachel made choices. She could have walked away. Instead, she chose to poison you, to manipulate your son, to try to steal your company. Those were her decisions. But Jennifer was the ringleader. Definitely. We've traced their pattern back 15 years. Jennifer has probably killed at least 8 wealthy men. Rachel helped with most of them. They were a team. What about Marcus? Have you heard from him lately? Martinez smiled. Actually, yes. He called me last week. Said he wanted to testify at Jennifer's next parole hearing, to make sure she never gets out. Good for him. He's doing well, Robert. Really well. He's not the same man who walked into that shareholders meeting thinking he was about to become CEO through his wife's scheme. He's found himself. After Martinez left, I sat alone in my study. The same room where I'd watched security footage of Rachel poisoning my coffee. The same desk where I'd planned the trap that exposed her conspiracy. 2 years. It felt like a lifetime ago and yesterday all at once. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Hey, Dad. Amy and I are getting married. Small ceremony next month. Would you walk her down the aisle? Her father passed away last year. I typed back immediately. I'd be honored, son. Congratulations. Another text appeared. I love you, Dad. Thanks for not giving up on me. I'll never give up on you. That's what fathers do. 5 years after the coffee incident, I celebrated my 77th birthday at a party thrown by the Foundation staff. The Catherine and Robert Harrison Foundation had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We had offices in 12 states. We'd helped pass elder protection laws in 30 states. We'd prevented an estimated $200 million in financial exploitation. Speech, someone called out. I stood up, looking around the room. Maria and Rosa were there, along with Marcus and Amy and their newborn daughter, my granddaughter Catherine, named after her grandmother she'd never meet. The Foundation staff, Harrison Technology employees, Detective Martinez, Dr. Chun, James Bradford, so many people who'd been part of my story. 5 years ago, I almost died. I began, not from old age or illness, but from a calculated plan to poison me and steal everything I'd built. I survived because one brave woman decided that speaking up was worth a risk. Maria, stand up. Maria stood reluctantly, blushing as everyone applauded. Maria had every reason to stay silent. She was an immigrant, worried about her status. She needed her job. She was afraid of retaliation. But she spoke up anyway because she knew it was right. And because of her courage, I'm alive. My son is free from a toxic marriage. And we've built something that protects thousands of other seniors from the same fate I almost suffered. I raise my glass. So here's to Maria. Here's to everyone who chooses courage over comfort. And here's to the next 5 years of this Foundation's work. Later, as people mingled and laughed, Marcus pulled me aside. Dad, I need to tell you something. Amy and I have been talking, and we want to expand the Foundation's work. Create a program specifically for adult children who might be manipulated into harming their parents. Education, therapy, support groups. Help them recognize the warning signs before it goes too far. Marcus, that's brilliant. It's personal. He looked down at baby Catherine sleeping in his arms. I never want her to go through what I went through. Never want her to be so desperate for approval that she lets someone manipulate her into hurting the people she loves. If we can help other families avoid that, then your experience becomes something positive, something that helps others. Exactly. He smiled. I learned that from you, Dad. Turning tragedy into purpose. As the party continued, I found myself thinking about Rachel, sitting in prison, wondering if she'd found any peace, any understanding of the damage she'd caused. Jennifer had apparently become a model prisoner, teaching literacy classes, claiming she'd found religion. Whether it was genuine or another con, I couldn't say. But Rachel had struggled. Multiple suicide attempts, psychiatric medications. The reports Martinez shared with me painted a picture of someone whose entire identity had been built on a lie, and now that the lie was exposed, she had nothing left. I felt pity for her, not forgiveness. I don't know if I'd ever truly forgive her for what she tried to do, but pity. She'd been so focused on what she thought was freedom that she'd built a prison around herself. Real freedom, I'd learned, comes from living authentically, from building something genuine, from loving people without manipulation, from making choices based on values instead of greed. That's what I try to teach now in my talks to seniors and their families. That's what the foundation promoted. Don't let fear make you vulnerable to predators, but also don't let fear keep you from trusting anyone. Find a balance. Protect yourself while remaining open to genuine connection. And if something feels wrong, speak up. Be like Maria. Choose courage. On the 10th anniversary of the coffee incident, I sat in my study working on my memoir. The book would detail everything: the poisoning, the investigation, the arrest, the aftermath. But more than that, it would be a guide for seniors facing similar threats. A blueprint for protection. I titled it Trust But Verify: How I Survived a Family Conspiracy and Built a Movement. Marcus was co-authoring, adding his perspective as someone who'd been manipulated. His chapters were painfully honest about his weakness, his desperate need for approval, his failure to see what Rachel was really doing. I want other people to learn from my mistakes, he'd said. I want them to understand how easy it is to be manipulated when someone knows exactly which buttons to push. The doorbell rang. Maria answered it. She still worked for me, though now more as a companion and friend than a housekeeper. My house manager, I called her. She ran the household staff, coordinated events, and had become indispensable. Mr. Harrison, there's someone here to see you. A young woman stood in the foyer, early 30s, nervous, clutching a folder. Mr. Harrison, my name is Emily Brennan. Thomas Brennan was my father. I remember the name. The Seattle victim. Jennifer's first known murder. Please come in. Sit down. She followed me to my study, perching nervously on the edge of the couch. I wanted to thank you in person, she said. Because of your case, because you exposed the Kowalski sisters, we finally got justice for my father. Jennifer was convicted. She'll die in prison. And my father's name was cleared. For years, people thought he'd been a foolish old man, tricked by a young gold digger. But now everyone knows he was a victim, that he was murdered. I'm glad we could help bring you closure. It's more than closure. She opened the folder. My father's estate was frozen during the investigation. Jennifer couldn't access the money she'd stolen. With her conviction, the estate finally settled. And my siblings and I decided we wanted to do something meaningful with it. She handed me a check. I looked at the amount and felt my breath catch. $5 million. Ms. Brennan, I can't accept this. It's not for you personally. It's for your foundation. My father would have loved what you're doing. He was always helping people, always generous. This is what he would have wanted. I looked at the check, then at this young woman who'd lost her father to evil, but chose to respond with generosity. Your father raised you well. He did. Tears filled her eyes. And thanks to you, people know that now. They know he was a good man who deserved better. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Thank you for everything. After she left, I sat holding that check, thinking about the ripples of that morning 10 years ago. One warning from Maria had saved my life, exposed a conspiracy, protected countless other seniors, and created a movement that was still growing. All because one woman chose courage over fear. The book came out a year later to strong reviews and even stronger sales. The proceeds went to the foundation. Marcus and I did a book tour together, father and son, telling our story to packed auditoriums across the country. At every stop, people came up to us with their own stories. Seniors who'd escaped financial abuse. Adult children who'd recognized manipulation in time. Caregivers who'd spoken up despite the risks. You gave us permission to trust our instincts, one woman told me in Chicago. My sister was slowly draining my mother's accounts. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to believe it. Your story gave me the courage to investigate. We stopped her before she could take everything. Those conversations made everything worthwhile. The trauma, the betrayal, the months of recovery. All of it had meaning because it was helping others. I was 82 now, older than I'd ever expected to be after that poison coffee. But I was healthy, active, engaged with life in a way I hadn't been even before the incident. Catherine Chun had just retired as CEO of Harrison Technology, handing the reins to a brilliant young engineer from our AI division. The company was thriving, innovating, continuing to grow. Marcus was a high school principal now, shaping young lives, helping students find their paths. He and Amy had 3 children, Catherine, Thomas, named after Emily Brennan's father, and Maria. Maria herself was 72, finally truly retired, though she still came by my house 3 times a week for coffee and conversation. Her granddaughter Rosa was a head nurse at UCSF Medical Center, with 2 children of her own. Detective Martinez had retired too, but she stayed involved with the foundation as a consultant and board member. We'd all built something beautiful from that terrible morning, something that would outlast all of us. I'm 87 now, writing this from my study on a foggy San Francisco morning, very much like that morning 22 years ago when Maria saved my life. My hands shake more than they used to. My memory isn't quite as sharp. These things are real age now, not the result of poisoning. I've been checked thoroughly. Marcus stops by every Sunday with his family. My great-grandchildren call me GG and climb all over me despite my protest that I'm too old for such roughhousing. The foundation is in capable hands. Rosa Martinez, Maria's granddaughter, runs it now, carrying forward her grandmother's legacy of courage and protection. Maria passed away last year at 82, peacefully, in her sleep, surrounded by family. I spoke at her funeral about the morning she saved my life, about how one moment of courage had changed everything. Maria could have stayed silent, I told the crowded church. She could have protected herself and let me die. But she chose differently. She chose to speak up, to take the risk, to do what was right even when it was dangerous. And because of that choice, I lived. My son found himself. Countless other seniors were protected. Laws were changed. A movement was born, all because one woman decided that speaking up was worth the risk. Her grave marker reads, Maria Teresa Martinez. Courage is speaking up when others stay silent. As I sit here now, looking out over the city I've called home for so many decades, I think about the paths our lives take, the moments that define us, the choices that change everything. If Maria hadn't warned me, I'd have drunk that coffee. I'd have collapsed, probably died, or been permanently incapacitated. Rachel would have succeeded. Marcus would have become CEO under her control. And the Kowalski sisters would still be out there, targeting vulnerable seniors, killing for profit. But Maria spoke up, and everything changed. That's the lesson I want to leave behind. The message I've spent the last 2 decades spreading. When something feels wrong, speak up. When you see injustice, act. When staying silent feels safer, choose courage anyway. Because you never know whose life you might save, what conspiracy you might expose, what movement you might start. All it takes is one person willing to whisper, "Don't drink it." Trust me, if you're listening to this story and you're a senior citizen, I need you to hear this. You are not paranoid for being cautious. You're not being dramatic for questioning things that feel wrong. Your instincts, honed over decades of life experience, are valuable. Trust them. Financial elder abuse happens to someone every 11 seconds in this country. Every 11 seconds. It's not rare. It's an epidemic. And it often comes from family members or caregivers, the people who are supposed to protect us. Watch for warning signs. Unexplained financial transactions. New advisors or helpers who isolate you from other family. Pressure to sign documents quickly without review. Changes in your will or power of attorney that you don't fully remember approving. Medication changes that don't make sense. Cognitive issues that appear suddenly and worsen rapidly. If you're an adult child, pay attention. Is your parent suddenly confused when they never were before? Are they being isolated from friends and other family? Is someone new in their life pushing for financial control? Ask questions. Investigate. Don't be afraid of seeming suspicious or overprotective. Better to be wrong and apologize than to be right and lose your parent. And if you're a caregiver who suspects abuse, be like Maria. Speak up. Report it. You might face retaliation. You might lose your job, but you might also save a life. The Maria Martinez Whistleblower Protection Act, passed in 2029, provides legal protection and financial support for caregivers who report suspected elder abuse. You're not alone. You're protected, and you're a hero. As for the Kowalski sisters, Jennifer died in prison in 2034 at age 76. Natural causes, reportedly. Rachel is still alive, serving her sentence, eligible for parole in 2041 when she'll be 84. I've submitted testimony to ensure she's never released. Marcus is 72 now, happy, healthy, surrounded by family. He volunteers with the foundation, talking to other adult children who were manipulated into harming their parents. The foundation has expanded globally. We operate in 15 countries, have helped pass elder protection legislation in 43 states and 12 nations, and have prevented an estimated $2 billion in financial exploitation. All because Maria chose courage. So here's what I want you to do right now. Think about the elderly people in your life. Your parents, grandparents, neighbors, friends. When's the last time you really checked in? Really asked how they're doing? Really looked for warning signs? Make that call. Pay that visit. Ask those questions. And if you're a senior, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't let pride or embarrassment keep you from protecting yourself. You deserve to live your final years in safety and dignity, not as a victim of predators. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from. Share this story with your family, especially your elderly relatives. Subscribe so you never miss these important stories that could save lives. Because the truth is, Grandpa stories like mine aren't just entertainment. They're warnings. They're lessons. They're blueprints for survival. Maria whispered, "Don't drink it." Trust me. I trusted her. And that trust saved my life. Who in your life needs you to be their Maria? Who needs someone brave enough to speak up? Be that person. Choose courage. Speak up. Lives depend on it.